From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your evening update.
Good evening, everyone. Well, this kind of tells the story of the snow we saw in Riding Right. This is from Lynn Jones. You can see that little bit of snow on top of the table there. You can also see a little bit of snow elsewhere. But for the most part, it didn't amount to much. Now, there was a little bit more out towards the city of Shasta Lake and out towards the lake head. So as the farther north you go, the better it was. But it just wasn't really anything all that significant. This was fun. This is from Trish in Dairyville, where they obviously didn't see snow. So this is her version of a snowman in Dairyville, and I think you can kind of get the picture there. You can see the carrot, you can see the two eyes, the sticks for the arms, and of course the hat, and of course the puddle of water. So they didn't see snow in Dairyville, but certainly had some fun. Snow in MacArthur, this is courtesy of Elisa Valdez. Beautiful shot here, looking at, I don't know, is this a yak? What is that? Is it a dog? I think it's a yak. I don't know, but kind of cool. And this is snow in Shingletown. Matt Wood sent this picture, and the dog is like, are we still going on our walk? Because I don't care about you. I don't know about you, but I still want to go on a walk, and, you know, snow or not. So I want to thank Matt for sending in that photo, and everybody else. And you can share your photos here. And I want you to show your morning show photos, or just any photos that you may have. You can do that from the free Weather NorCal app. Just include your location, elevation, and how much snow you saw. You just might see it on the morning show right here on Coffee with Krueger on Weather NorCal. All right, so here's a look at Krueger's Quickcast for your Wednesday, February 18th. We got a few things to talk about. I think a lot of you have that four-letter word in your mind. We're going to get into that here in a little bit, but you can see temperatures. That's one of the things that could contribute to the four-letter word we're talking about. Teens and 20s for the higher elevations. Still could see some thunderstorms tonight for parts along the coast. All right, tomorrow morning, here it is. You see that? Kind of setting in stone a little bit, aren't we? We got the potential for some snowflakes for the north end of the valley in particular. What about the south end of the valley? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But of course, all the higher elevations, seeing the snow and showers and thunderstorms along the coast, can see some accumulating hail there as well. So you can see that disturbance pushing through Northern California. That is what's going to be moving through tonight and into tomorrow morning. So we're going to take a look at, during Krueger's Quickcast here, the HRRR forecast model. This is going to be different than a forecast model that we look at a little bit later in the deeper dive. We're going to compare the two. So let's take you into tomorrow, well, really tonight and tomorrow morning. All right, there you can see by midnight, you see how we still have that southerly flow of winds. The winds are still going to be a bit breezy by midnight tonight. The rain and heaviest snow still kind of off to the west. Then you can see by around 5 a.m., what I find interesting is the model is still showing that pretty strong southerly flow of winds, but it still wants to bring in snow for Red Bluff all the way up to Redding. I would tend to disagree with that, because with these stronger winds, you're not going to see that snow. It's going to be in the form of rain. However, you start to see it more transition more from north to south by the time you get to around 8 o'clock in the morning. And if that precipitation is still around, it may very well be in the form of snow. Now you can see it's all the way down to Chico as well, and maybe even Oroville. And then that shifts off to the east, and then we're going to start to dry things out by the second half of the day for most of us. Still that snow, obviously, in the eastern mountains and some of the higher elevations. Now, remember where we saw that snow. I mean, all of the valley basically seeing snow, right, based on the HRRR. You'll see there's a bit different solution coming in from our in-house forecast model. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. Now, we do expect through 10 o'clock tomorrow night, about a half an inch, give or take, for the valley, and a little bit more than that for the coast. And then taking a look at the snow, what's it's showing for Redding? It's showing it for Chico, but not Red Bluff. All right, so it's kind of interesting, again, to kind of see that it's just kind of one of those things where we're threading this needle and trying to figure out where that snow is going to be, if it's going to be snow, what the winds are doing. There's a lot of moving parts that we've got to sort through. Now, we take a look at the snow totals here for the ski park, looking good. Could see about a foot of fresh snow just for tonight and into tomorrow. So there you can see your temperatures are going to be the upper 40s here for your Thursday. Now, we're going to start off a little wet for the valley, and then eventually it dries out for the second half of the day. Still a chance for some showers and thunderstorms for the coast and snow flurries in the higher elevations, and still probably a lot of snow here throughout the day tomorrow in the eastern mountains. So for the valley, I've got AM snow for Redding and Red Bluff, most likely in the form of rain for Chico. But again, we'll take a look at that a little bit later. Friday, Saturday, mainly dry, more wet weather Sunday, Monday, and really through at least the middle of next week, if not longer. There's that chance for thunderstorms for the coast, dry for Friday, Saturday, and then, of course, we're looking at more often on showers Sunday through the middle of next week. And we've got dry conditions for the mountains as well for Friday, Saturday, and it looks like more snow. In fact, snow could be down to about 3 to 4,000 feet. So we look at our weather headlines, cool and unsettled through Thursday with continued low snow levels. Snow still possible in parts of the valley. We'll take a closer look at that. Drier but still cold Friday and Saturday, and more rain and snow Sunday into next week. We're going to get into all of that in your deeper dive forecast coming up in just a few seconds. But first, a word from our sponsor, Shasta Hearing Aids.
Hearing loss can creep in little by little until one day you realize something's been missing. It's not about things being louder, it's about the moments that slip by. The joke you didn't quite catch, the quiet I love you, or the conversations with your kids that deserve the full attention. At Shasta Hearing Aids here in Redding, we believe hearing aid care should feel personal. Through compassionate care, a comprehensive hearing aid screening, and technology tailored to your lifestyle, we help you reconnect to what matters most. Schedule your free hearing aid evaluation today.
All right, so here we go. We're going to take a look at the satellite image here. Colder air, another disturbance. You see all these clouds right here? That's the next disturbance. You see this right here. That's what's going to be moving in here later tonight and into tomorrow morning. Now, we've got to watch the winds and what's going on with all of that. But first, let's just kind of take a look at the parade of storms that are heading our way. Tonight, tomorrow morning is that last push before we see a bit of a break for Friday and Saturday. And then we've got another round, another parade of storms coming in as we go into Sunday. There you can see more coming in on Monday and even Tuesday of next week and possibly even Wednesday, Thursday of next week. So we're going to continue this wet weather pattern most likely through at least the middle of next week, maybe even into the latter part of next week as well. Tomorrow, best chance for thunderstorms to be along the coast, but maybe even parts of the valley could see that potential as well. All right, let's get you into it. Let's take a look at this. So what I've included here are the winds, because the winds are going to be play a key factor as to whether or not we see snow in the valley. So let's talk about this for a second. So here we go. We go into about 2 o'clock in the morning. All right, tomorrow morning, 2 a.m., there are those southerly flow of winds. They're fairly strong, gusting upwards around 15, 20, even 25 miles per hour. We're really starting to see that snow trying to really make its way into the valley, but not just yet. Why? Because again, we've got that strong southerly flow of winds. That doesn't support the development of snow. A lot of times it just kind of keeps the temperature too warm and the snow tends to melt, or at the very least, maybe a bit of a mix. But one thing I do have seen pretty consistently is that we are seeing moderate to heavy rainfall during the time frame of the early morning hours. So let's see what happens, right? You see that heavier rainfall you have in the valley, right? And the heavy snow you do have in the higher elevations. But take a look at this, 7 a.m. Now we're seeing a little bit more of a northerly flow of winds. The winds are dying down. You'll notice we're not seeing that consistent southerly flow of winds. So with the heavier rainfall, you see how that's just, I mean, it is just inching so close to Chico. I think Paradise, you're going to see the snow, right? Magalia. Oroville, you're really close as well. Red Bluff is really close, and even Redding. So it's kind of in that borderline, right? Because you go on the south here and the west of I-5, it's all in the form of rain, and then it's back to snow. All right? So this is one, again, of those you're kind of scratching your head because the winds are showing signs of dying down. So could this also be in the form of snow down in here as well? It's not out of the question. But I feel as though we needed a forecast model run again to kind of see what happens. But really, when we take a look at what we saw at noon, pretty good alignment. We're seeing it kind of hugging the north and the east side of the valley, where we see a little bit more in the way of rainfall on the west side. So we'll kind of have to wait and see. But what I am seeing here is that the winds, based on this model, are starting to die down, right? And what's interesting, when we go at 8 a.m., you see that little slot right there of snow near Chico, right? But this is all, and of course, you head along the coast, by the way, can't forget about that, showers and thunderstorms there. And then, of course, we're seeing snow elsewhere. I mean, so if we're talking about potential for snow in the valley, anywhere else outside of the valley, it's going to be in the form of snow. All right, and then we go into about 10 o'clock in the morning, snow in the eastern mountains, but you see how we're seeing a drier trend here west of that. All right, still some showers, still some thunderstorms possibly for the coast. And then we go into the afternoon, still some flurries off to the east, some of the higher elevations, but we're kind of going into a drier trend at this point, right? And then we go into Friday. Now the thing is, it's just like this lingering activity trying to move on in, but we're going to keep it fairly dry for your Friday. Saturday, now it looks like the storm system that's approaching is kind of stall out a bit. It may bring us a chance for a few flurries, especially off to the west, but overall fairly dry through the day on Saturday. We were thinking Saturday night we'd see some of this rain to move in. There was a lot more rain in the earlier forecast model that brought the rain for the valley westward, but now there's not much going on here. And it looks like more like a Sunday type of event that it moves in. Now look at this, Sunday morning, the rain really hitting the coast. The rain's starting to hit the valley. We're seeing snow a little bit higher than it has been, probably around 3,500, 4,000 feet. Look at this. It actually stalls out and starts to kind of want to retrograde or move back to the north and west, so it doesn't look to really progress eastward on Sunday. For now, I'm still going to keep the chance for rain and snow for the eastern mountains. This is the first I'm really kind of seeing this trend here, so we'll have to kind of watch that. But looking at the forecast rain totals through Sunday 5 p.m., about a half an inch for the valley, maybe an inch or two for the coast. So it looks like some good, better rain there. Still have that winter storm warning till approximately 10 p.m. It just depends on where you are, but we're still seeing more snow in the forecast through at least Thursday night before we start to see much drier conditions by Friday. All right, so there it is, 8 o'clock Thursday morning. All right, less than an inch in Redding. Thing is, if we can get that transition to snow sooner, there's no reason why we couldn't see, 2 to 3, 2 to 4 inches of snow, maybe a little bit more in some cases. But right now, it just kind of shows it really hugging the east side and the north end of the valley here, and we're just not seeing as much down to the south. This is a bit of a kind of a wait and see. And you're definitely going to want to stay tuned here for tomorrow morning as we take a look at the latest forecast model data and take a look at what we can expect to see. In the meantime, we do have more of that snow in the higher elevations, and it is going to really start to pile up again, especially over the Sierra, but even out towards Mount Shasta, certainly seeing some decent snow out there as well. That's good for the ski park. Now, with that low elevation snow come the headaches of, travel and snow on the mountain highways. So no, tonight into tomorrow morning, the headaches we saw 2 mornings ago, we could probably see again here for tomorrow morning. Probably looking at some chain requirements on I-5, west and east of I-5, plenty of chain requirements. This would include Buckhorn Summit, Oregon Mountain, Berry Summit, Highway 36 West, right? And then you can see conditions should improve by the time we go into Thursday afternoon, but still that snow in the eastern mountains and still a lot of snow over the Sierra. I mean, they're just getting feet and feet and feet of snow. So we're not done just yet. We've got that one last push coming tonight and tomorrow, and then that break for Friday and Saturday. So there it is, all right? There it is Thursday morning. We're going to be looking at more chain requirements and more problems. And, of course, we've seen the closure of Interstate 80 and Highway 50. But conditions may get worse tonight into tomorrow morning with some minor improvement by the second half of the day on Thursday. All right, let's take a look at the winds again and just focus on the winds and talk about that potential for snow with those winds. All right, so midnight tonight, strong south wind. Now again, I want to reiterate, when you have a strong south wind, it's a little bit warmer, it keeps the temperature up, and that doesn't really help in the development of snow. Or if the snow is moving over us, it typically tends to melt and it turns over to rain or at the very least a mix. So with the southerly flow of winds, that doesn't help. So as we go into your 5 a.m. hour, we're still seeing a bit of that south wind. You see it's a 15, 17 miles per hour. But look at Redding. You see how the winds are much calmer. So even though I have a little bit of that south wind, much calmer winds, that may help, at least for the snow in the Redding area at 5 a.m. Then we take it about 8 a.m. Now it's more of that northerly flow. The winds are shifting from south. Now they're going to be coming in from the north by the time we get into Thursday morning. This, I would say, would be the best chance and the best time frame for that snow to develop should the winds materialize as we're seeing here. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is that the winds are very difficult to predict. Sometimes they have a bit of a mind of their own. And, we can look at the forecast models all day long, but the winds are going to do what they're going to do. And many times the forecast models have a hard time really pinpointing exactly what's going to happen, and especially when you're kind of going into specific time frames. But midday Thursday, the wind's picking back up again. So it's interesting. They're going to be gusty tonight. They're going to die down and then gusty again tomorrow afternoon. Right? And then we see them die down again for Friday and most likely through the first half of the day on Saturday. But by Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, especially along the coast, we're seeing those winds really begin to ramp up here, 30, even 40 miles per hour. Wetter than normal conditions most likely through the end of the month. We started off February very dry. Now we're going to end February very wet and snowy as well for the higher elevations. And the temperatures have been quite cold, but I do expect it to warm up a bit, and we'll be back closer to normal as we get toward the end of the month and early March, right? You can see here, pretty cold, at least through Sunday. We tick back up, back in the low 60s by the time we get to the end of next week. So here's your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Here you go. We've got temperatures upper 30s, low 40s, another cold day, mainly dry Friday, Saturday, and then more wet weather, and probably not in the form of snow by the time we do get into Sunday. It'll be in the form of rain, as we do expect higher snow levels, but still fairly low. 3,000 feet, 3,500 feet, that's pretty low. We have more wet weather for the coast by Sunday through at least Wednesday of next week, if not longer. Temperatures still on the cool side, upper 30s, mid to upper 40s. For those daytime highs for the coast. Siskiyou County got mainly 30s, and you can see, of course, the dry conditions Friday, Saturday, and then, of course, we're also looking at that wet weather moving back in, snow levels 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Modoc County, it's going to be a cold one. Temperatures in the low to mid 30s, dry for Friday, Saturday. More snow comes Sunday and Monday. And for the eastern mountains, you're also cold. Looking at the temperature about 31 for Westwood, 42 degrees in Paradise. And your valley neighborhood forecast to the south, temperatures upper 40s, maybe even touching 50 degrees in some spots here. Dry for your Friday and Saturday. I've got AM rain for Chico. Could you see some snowflakes? Well, based on the latest forecast model data, it wants to show that. And this, quite honestly, is one of the first times I'm kind of seeing it, so we'll see. But for now, I'm sticking with rain for Chico. And then showers by really Saturday night. Now it looks like more like Sunday into Monday that we'll see that next round of rain. 50 degrees for Anderson, 49 degrees for Redding, as well as Red Bluff, and 49 in Palo Cedro. There's your 7-day forecast for Redding. And there you can see, of course, the drier conditions here for Friday and Saturday. More wet weather for Sunday through Wednesday of next week. I'll be back again tomorrow morning. We're going to talk about those chances for rain yet one more time in your 6 o'clock in the morning update. In fact, I may have it uploaded sometime between 5 a.m. and 5:30 in the morning. So be on the lookout for that for an early upload. And of course, I'll be live on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30. Have yourselves a great rest of your night.